All right, we'll call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. Let's stand to the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alright, looking for a motion to approve the agenda for tonight.
Do it.
All in favor?
What's in a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public comment about agenda items. Is there any public comment about agenda items?
I didn't want to be the first, but I guess no one else came up here, so.
Here I am.
I just have a few questions on 5A. My understanding, we're going to hire a fire chief under contract. And because this individual is not qualified for the position, we are going to have an assistant, which is going to create a new position in the township. And we're going to pay them, and he's going to be under contract. Now, we haven't seen that contract. Is that contract available for us to see?
It's not,
And why?
because that's not going to happen.
Even if I FOIA that information
No,
is...
I'm saying, no, because we're not doing that.
Oh,
And we couldn't get it approved through the lawyer. The contract doesn't allow for it, the CBA, the collective bargaining agreement, doesn't allow for that. That was our plan.
oh, okay, so there's not going to be a created position?
There's not.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes me happy, because that was creating a new position that would have cost this township, I'm sure, additional monies that you don't have in the budget and so forth, so do you dare to share with us what's gonna happen, or are we gonna have to wait till 5A comes around?
Well, yeah, because we have to talk about it and vote on it, so.
Oh, okay.
But it was actually very minimal, the amount that it was gonna cost us, cheaper than hiring a chief from out of state, much cheaper.
Well, that was gonna be an assistant.
No. But, thank you for your comment, do you have anything else to say?
Well, the agenda says fire chief and assistant contracts, is what it reads.
Because that's what it was hoping to be, and we were not able to work that out with the attorney, we tried for 2 weeks, and the CBA doesn't allow for it, and the contracted position would cost too much for liability insurance, so it cannot happen.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Yes, I do. Do you want my name? Okay. I figured you'd know who I am. I did FOIA a contract, and I do understand fully that it is not a final and approved contract. But I read the contract very closely, and I have some extreme concerns about this contract. And I know that I'm limited to time, so I would appreciate it if you guys would, if you want to, answer anything that I reply to anything I have to say, that you do it under board comments. Okay, thank you, I appreciate that. So, my first one is the fact that, the contract had the applicant's name on it before the board even discussed the contract or voted on it. Now, I've dealt with contracts when I served on the board, and the only time that we ever had a name on a contract was when we were renewing a contract, not when we were doing a new contract, especially one that has not even been discussed and approved by the township board. And I also am concerned that the supervisor appears to have most of the control over this contract in here, that, whoever the fire chief may be, that they go to her And that if she, and the one particular one, it says, nothing herein is intended or extending the terms of this employment agreement as stated in section 2 above, without the written approval of the township supervisor or the action of the board of trustees. Should this not be and the board of trustees? Because my opinion as a resident, you, the 6 of you are giving her all the authority to make the decisions when you are a board of 7 and should have your say in it. And also there is the other part that for hours of work, it states in here that if he works over 40 hours a week, that he can come to the supervisor and ask the supervisor to have additional time off from what he would earn. And that, I feel that too should also be a board decision. And when you are salaried, which is what he will be, you work as many hours as what is required of it. He already will be, whoever the fire chief is, will already be getting vacation time, sick leave, and all that other stuff. So that concerns me that she has left it open, that she can decide who does, you know, who makes those decisions. May I continue?
Yep, you have 50 more seconds.
Oh, okay. And also, on the last page of the contract, it states that, because he will be retiring, he will be resigning from the union, so he will not be a union employee anymore. And in the last part of the contract, it says, all other employment agreements between the parties are hereby terminated and rendered void. And yet, in the contract, it states that you guys are going to credit him for 3 years of service. Those 3 years of service were in the union. The fire chief position is a non-union position. And so I have concerns that you guys, and the fact that you guys are going to accredit him 10 years of retirement.
Okay, thank you, that's 3 minutes. Is there other public comment about agenda items? Any other public comment about agenda items? Okay, we will move on. All right, there's a regular meeting minutes, planning commission minutes, and special meeting minutes included. Looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, old business, fire chief and assistant contracts. So when I made this on Wednesday, I was still very hopeful. Unfortunately, talking with Laura McKenna and there was a gentleman involved.
Cliff.
Yeah, Cliff. So it's not gonna be able to work out to have the fire director or administrator or assistant chief. The CBA kind of blocks that out. The gentleman that came and recommended the duo to us and really recommended that we have both of them work together. We're not familiar with our CBA and didn't know. So it's just something that we couldn't find a way around in reading the CBA. So like 3 people from Foster Swift looked through it and we cannot figure out a way to make it work. So in your packet, there is a contract, one with Alex's name because we entertained 2 candidates. One was Alex and one was Dave, and we were trying to hire both of them. So there's one for Alex, and then there is also one for Dave because those were the 2 candidates. And I don't really know where we go from here. We could offer a contract to one of them, or we start the process over. I don't know what we do from here.
Didn't the Alpine people recommend Dave as the fire chief?
No, they recommended Dave and Alex.
They recommended Dave as the fire chief and Alex as the deputy chief, but that didn't work out for him to be the deputy. You
I think they
specifically asked them, what if we
recommended
switch it, what if we switch it around, and they said, no, it takes a lot of years. And then you read something from your phone and asked if we could use Dave as a consultant, and they said, no, that's not what Dave suggested.
They actually were fine with us using him as a consultant, but our CBA is not okay with that.
And do you wanna share the email that they sent you with their recommendation? While she's looking, I had lots of concerns, and this contract, it contradicts our policies and procedures, and I sent them to Amanda. I have 5 pages in front of me, plus the signature page, and I have fire chief on page and a half of job description, which we've never seen before, and I have some concerns with that too, and I sure hope this 5 minutes before the meeting for me to look over and see if my concerns have been addressed. I sure hope that I'm not being forced to vote on this tonight. I still think there's
There's
some
no
things that
motion on the floor.
contradict each other.
There's no motion on the floor, so I think it would be up to us to decide what we wanna take
Yeah,
forward.
That's
And
what
I haven't read through it either, so,
that job description was what we posted when we were hiring.
Well, my concern with it is that the assistant, agreement, it looked like a posting to me, I don't know if you wanted to call it an agreement, that was in our last packet, had more requirements than the fire chief job description. Yeah, there's just all sorts of things. Our policy and procedures state that all new employees will be probationary. I can't remember, 6 months or 9 months. And also it says this contract term that the employee agrees to remain in employment of the township as the fire chief until March 18th, 2030. Then it considers him an at-will employee that the township or the employee at any time employment can be terminated with or without cause. I don't know, maybe Lori can address that. Those
Yeah,
two
those-
things seem sort of contradictory to me, but I don't know that
It doesn't read, alright, exactly. Yeah, those aren't necessarily contradictory, you can have an anticipated period and still have it be at will, and we would recommend an at will agreement. Trying to think if there are other things I wanted to touch on this. Certainly, the board's not compelled to make a decision tonight. I think the important part of tonight and why I was asked to attend, other than I haven't been here in person in a long time and haven't met some of you in person, so.
nice to meet you.
Hi, Laura Genovich from Foster Swift, nice to meet you all. Is that there was a change of course. Obviously, the township board had an idea of what it wanted to do, sent it to legal. We were the bad guys and said, well, fortunately or unfortunately, I guess neutrally, the CBA won't allow you to create another, position that's not negotiated through there. And if you did the independent contractor role, there were going to be some liability insurance costs that were just prohibitive from the township's, point of view. So the reason it's coming up before you in a public meeting tonight is to say, look, we can't do that the way we talked about doing it. So which way do we want to move forward? Which candidate, if this is what we want to do, are we going to move forward with one of these 2 candidates? And then if there's additional feedback on the draft contract, certainly you don't have to approve it tonight. We can revisit things if there's terms of it that you want to change, or you just want more time to review it. But that's kind of the important part of tonight, is making sure that that change of course is discussed and decided on in an open meeting.
Laura, could you just touch on, what is McKenna Rivers' role at Foster's?
She's an associate attorney, so I'm a partner or shareholder in the firm, so she's an associate attorney. She specializes in employment law. I'm a municipal generalist, so
Okay.
McKenna and Cliff Hammond are both attorneys. They both do almost exclusively employment and labor law.
Okay, because just to be clear, I did not write this contract.
No, yeah, understood.
Some people are thinking that I wrote this, and I don't do legal, so that was
Yeah.
an
We
attorney.
took some material that the township provided and finessed it and made some,
Yes.
made some changes to it.
Our policies and procedures also state that the fire chief will have the same benefits and lists other things. Had I expected that we would vote on this, I would have brought our policy procedure manual. However, it states that the fire chief will have the same benefits as the non-firefighter union, but throughout here, it says the same as the firefighters.
So because your policies and procedures are set by the board, I think if you wanted to do, and I think some of this was from previous contracts the township had, we don't decide the terms, right, as lawyers, we just make sure it's legally compliant. You can agree to whatever terms you want to agree to. But because it's a board decision ultimately, if you wanna agree to something different than your policies and procedures manual, you could do that. I want you to be intentional, obviously, in what you choose to do with this. That's up to the board. We just wanna get you on the right course of, look, you can do an agreement for a fire chief, you're good with your CBA, can't create the other position, here's something that you can work with. If there's terms you wanna see different, you can do that.
Did anyone look through our policies and procedures when this was written?
We have the policies and procedures. Honestly, we were told these were terms that had been used before, so,
It was the Mark Cleveland contract that
Yeah.
I pulled out of the file.
And you didn't share that with us, cause you haven't seen that?
Yes, I did. It was when we sat down and had a meeting and talked about contracts. That was the one I presented.
Oh.
Were you at that special meeting or were you absent?
No, she was here. You were here that day.
Yeah, I didn't know it was Mark Cleveland contract, I guess.
so again, we
You
don't,
have a copy of it?
I did.
yeah, we don't pick the terms, we kinda work with what, there is. If you, if a majority of the board, I should say, wanna see something different in terms of benefits, now's the time to talk about it.
Is that?
I just don't want, he's already in the union and I don't want him to lose benefits. If he were to get a promotion, I don't think that would be really fair. I think he should keep what he has and it should be an addition, not a subtraction. Also, it just came to my mind, has acting, or I guess, what did you call it?
Point person.
Point person, yes. Alex, you've been doing a lot of work, and I really appreciate all the initiative you've had and bringing things to our attention that needed done, and just really with professionalism, just carrying a load. And I was just wondering if there was any extra compensation that he's been if we could actually give him some sort of bonus at the end of this, no matter what happens, for taking on more responsibility. And we don't have to vote on it now. I just want to consider it, and I think we should honor people that deserve honor, and that's just something that I think we need to consider sooner rather than later, no matter what happens. So I really appreciate what you've been doing and helping us to stay afloat. It's a really important department, and you've been, a blessing. Thank you.
How will that weigh in, Laura?
I'm sorry?
As a point person, it was not extra pay?
I don't know what the agreements were with that or how the CBA plays into that, so I need to review that. That's not something I'm prepared to advise on at the meeting, sorry.
I have something I'd like to read. Respected board members and constituents, we have been working towards hiring a fire chief for over 6 months. We have posted within and interviewed, and then it was decided to advertise outside of the department to make sure that we were making the right decision. We interviewed again, and then came the changes to the board. Knowing that some of you needed more time to make this important decision, we have patiently waited for all to feel comfortable with the decisions that we make. With that being said, we have a candidate that has submitted his application and interviewed at every round we've had. This applicant has a bachelor's degree in business administration, has sat on this very board for 8 years, so he's familiar with our budget and processes. He has been voted the president of the firefighters union, so he has the confidence of the workforce. He has been recommended by both firefighters and current and former chiefs. We asked the chief and deputy chief of Alpine Township to do the last interview, and although their first pick was Dave Glassbach because he's been chief for 22 years, they did say that Alex is a great candidate and would be their second choice, but it would be nice if he had more experience. Because of this, we tried to make a package deal with Alex as chief and Dave as a contracted assistant for a short time, so that we would have the best of both worlds. It seems that there is no way to have that happen with our current bargaining agreement, so it is time to make a decision. With that being said, I make a motion to hire Alex Maginity as fire chief and have the supervisor sign the contract as presented.
I can't second that without looking at the contract, but we can table this for future. I would like to motion to table this.
You've got a motion on the floor.
She's
It's
already
either
made a
gotta-
motion.
There's no second.
You're not the moderator. You wanna take care of this?
You're saying you're not seconding it.
I'm not seconding it. I can't because I haven't had enough time to read the
Would
contract.
you like to amend your motion to have time to review the contract? Or you wanna keep it as?
Don't let it die. I made my motion. We've been at this for 6 months and it just keeps festering and growing into a bigger issue and it's ridiculous.
I wanna take care of it as soon as possible too, but I just have to read the contract first. And I'm pretty sure it's gonna have minimal revisions, but I just need to look at it, and I would like to table this until our next meeting. That's my motion.
Can't make a motion yet. This
Are
is,
we like have a discussion, or do we have to wait until there's a second or not a second?
So you need a second for discussion. I would recommend seeing if there's a second, and then the township supervisor should indicate that the motion fails for lack of a second if there is not a second.
Okay. Does anyone want to second the motion? Okay, so the motion dies for lack of support.
Now the floor is back open.
Do you wanna remake your motion,
Now
Ben?
you should make your motion if you want.
Make my motion to,
Yeah, because the motion on the table was to approve the contract.
Oh,
That motion died. Your
okay.
motion was not properly on the floor yet. Now you can make the
thank
motion.
you,
You're
okay.
welcome.
I would like to make a motion to table this until our next meeting.
I second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. We will roll call vote.
Trudy? Yes. Peggy?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Benj. Corey?
Yes.
Rhonda?
Yes.
No. Amanda?
No. But the motion carries. All right. The next item is mechanic best practices email update. At our last meeting, it was brought up, when Alex was presenting a PO, that he should not be doing maintenance. And that the gentleman from the power plant, Chris, had a conversation with Trudy and said that that should not be happening. So I reached out to them just to clarify what we can or cannot do. And I have a letter in your packet here. He actually said there wasn't a conversation that happened, but he found an old email in the archives. And then they wrote us this letter with a list of things, and it's not exhaustive, but it mentions some things that could possibly be done. On there, you'll see checking fluids, air pressure, checking for leaks. The one I really want to draw your attention to is the routine chassis component lubrication. That was the one that caused a little contention last meeting, and that is allowed. They're also allowed to change light bulbs. We actually just had a bill for that. Alex felt that he should go get it serviced at a shop instead of doing it himself, and it cost the township extra money because he no longer felt comfortable doing that routine maintenance, even though it is customary and acceptable by the park plan. I talked to him about it because he does keep in communication quite regularly, and he was able to get some of that waived. Is that right?
Yeah, so that light replacement initially come from the DOT inspections that we had done back in January, so it was something we wanted to keep done to make sure that they actually did it because of that inspection purpose. That light bulb cost this township $214. I was able to negotiate back and forth with them a little bit to drop off their drive time just because of the other business we've done, so we were able to knock, I think, about $100 off that. I think I got it down to like 120, but still $120 for a light.
Yeah, I would just encourage everyone to familiarize yourself with this letter and, you know, it can really save us a lot of money if we allow our firefighters to do the maintenance that other departments do. And thank you, Alex, for following up on that and trying to save some money.
This is just for the record.
Yes.
You used the word contention. I said as a public official in the office that I wasn't comfortable signing POs and
Well,
I asked.
it wasn't
I'm
time,
talking.
it's not time for board comments, I'm sorry. But you brought it up and said that the insurance
So
called
Alex
you.
could comment about this, but I can't.
I had to clarify because you said the insurance company said that we couldn't do that and we can do this.
I understand. I'm explaining that. I asked for clarification and I'm thinking you're forgetting that.
Alex has a letter. Do you want me to just talk about MES?
Yeah, unless you guys have any questions for it. So MES is who we deal with. It used to be West Shore for our compressor maintenance for our cascade system, all our bottles on our air packs. They come out, they do annual service. It is a budgeted item. You can see the budget line item there. And they were out, it's not anything we schedule, they just come out annually when they're in the area to try to save money with all the local departments. So they were in last week, I think late last week, or the week before, I forget exactly, but, and did the compressor maintenance, they did get that done. So basically this is just, asking to approve the amount of $1351.68 to come out of line item 206340. 809,600, which is safety and annual inspection, which we did put that amount in there when we did these last budget amendments.
Would it be appropriate if I ask a question about our compressor?
Sure.
It's getting pretty old, I think. Do you know what it costs to buy a new one and
So
do we need to start budgeting for that somehow?
it was new when we bought the station. Eagle compressor is no longer. We are able to still get some parts from time to time. The individual that does our service has remained on with MES through their changeover. I don't know how long he's gonna be there. He's kinda like on a 30-day notice. During this maintenance, I will say that he was able to identify a couple problems that were fixed with parts he had on his truck at no charge to us. Ken's been amazing to us, and he has also done the liberty of trying to get me some quotes for new replacements, which I'll pass on to whoever the next chief is, for budgetary purposes, but it's in the tune of between 50 and 60,000. Pre-care. I don't know how any of that will play into it, but that bid was brought in a couple months ago, so that's just kind of a rough idea.
Thank you.
I believe prior to, because we have other departments that fell off that I know Egelston Township does as well, they're looking at currently purchasing their own as well, so this would probably be something that's for us to take care of, so. We can go to other departments to fill bottles from time to time, obviously not cost effective, so if it were to go down, we do have places we could utilize to fill, but it is definitely something that we wanna look at for a budget item in the near future. Any other questions?
Alright, we have a badge pinning tonight.
What do we want to approve?
Oh, sorry. I'm ready to get going.
Make a motion to approve the second.
Roll call vote.
Rhonda?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Motion carries. Alright, now we have badge fitting.
As you can see, I drew the short straw. So tonight, we're actually gonna pin 3 of our full-time firefighters who, they went to full-time a few years, within the last couple of years, but, you know, our department's a team, right? But we wanna take the time to spotlight our individuals when they deserve to be recognized for their years of service. what they've done for the community. So this is our opportunity, and yes, we're going back in time a little bit, but it's still important that we catch up. And hopefully this becomes a tradition that all of our folks who are due to be promoted or higher in become comfortable with coming up here, because sometimes it's like pulling teeth. Just saying. So, I'm gonna read a little bit about each one of these. They are typed, although again, they didn't type them for the old guy, so. My glasses on here. I'm gonna start with Michael Bruchet. Mike's a graduate of Oak Ridge High School in 2000. From there, he attended Lansing Community College, where he graduated with an associate's degree in fire science and an EMT basic. Michael was hired on Egelston Fire Department September of 1999 as a senior high school through a work release program. I had to make sure the senior high school part was right. Mike's been a paid-on-call firefighter and has worked to continue his education, such as earning Fire Officer 3 and Instructor 2. Michael worked for the Department of Natural Resources Fire Control Division for 16 years as a wildland firefighter and heavy equipment operator. His hard work and dedication to the department landed him an opportunity for full-time in August of 2016. Out of a group of about 30 applicants or so, Michael was chosen as one of the 2 full-time positions in the department. Mike has served 2 years as president and 1 year as vice president of Union Local 3901. In March of 2023, he was promoted to the rank of second lieutenant, in which he will be pinned for this evening. Michael will be pinned by his wife Kelly and his sons Michael Jr. and Aiden. The part that's not on here is, we're gonna get all 3 of them up there and kind of just write them all at the same time. So, but I do want to say that being in the neighboring department for a few years, I've known Mike a very long time, and not only has he joined this department when he did, but he grew up in this, he's grown up in this. He's been very dedicated to this community and to the fire service as a whole. So he should be proud. I know his dad's proud. All right, next up, Alex Maginity. Yeah, get up here. You made him come up here. So Alex is also a lifelong resident of Egelston Township, graduating from Oak Ridge High School in 2005. He then attended Baker College in Muskegon, where he graduated with an associate degree in business in 2007, and continued on to graduate with a bachelor's degree in business administration in 2010. Alex has spent 8 years serving the Egelston Township as a board member on this board. On September 16, 2019, Alex joined the Egelston Township Fire Department as a paid-on-call firefighter. Earning a top spot in his academy class, Alex continued to earn all of the certifications needed to apply as a full-time firefighter. And on October 31st, 2022, that came true when he was hired as a full-time firefighter of the Egelston Township Fire Department. Since then, Alex has shown true leadership and devotion as the union president of Local 3901 and as a current point person between the township supervisor and the fire department for all internal operations. Alex will be pinned by his girlfriend Alex, daughter Kylie, and son Tanner. I should have some statute of Last and certainly not least, Jim. Jim also graduated from Oak Ridge High School in 1985. Right out of high school, Jim went into the Army from 1986 to 1990 and was stationed in Korea. He was also called back into the Army in 1991 during Desert Storm. In 1990, he met his wife Julie. They married in 92. In 1993, they welcomed their daughter Chelsea into the world. The world's never been the same. Jim got his start as a firefighter in North Muskegon Fire Department in 2002. where he served for 3 years. In 2005, he joined the Egelston Township Fire Department and served as a paid-on-call firefighter for 18 years. In his free time, Jim enjoys traveling, camping, and spending time with his 4 grandchildren. In 2023, Jim was promoted to full-time firefighter, in which he will be receiving his full-time badge for this evening. And Jim will be pinned by his wife Julie and daughter Chelsea, who's also a member of the Egelston Township Fire Department for the last 6 years. So the badges, some have heard this already, but it's still worth repeating, because those badges are symbols, and they're symbols of service. Service and sacrifice by firefighters. The firefighters, the badge has the Florian cross on it. The Florian cross, often confused with the Maltese cross. The Florian cross is what a majority of the fire departments use. It carries the same 8-point structure as the Maltese cross, but has rounded edges. Some historians indicate the Florian cross came into existence in the 4th century and was named after a Roman officer. The Roman army tasked St. Florian with organizing firefighting brigades for the city. Although St. Florian and his men were not the first firefighters in the city, they were considered the best and the most well-known. Historical images of St. Florian often depict him in uniform with a bucket of water in hand with a burning building at his feet, which is how he became the patron saint of firefighters. Perhaps more importantly, however, is the legend tells us that they had a creed or belief that their purpose in life was to serve those less fortunate. They held that service, honor, and integrity. What they may have called gallantry or chivalry or courage defined the service to others that they performed and we provide today. By our very nature as firefighters, residents still invite us into their homes during their worst day of their lives, knowing that we are there to make things better. This public trust is a tremendous responsibility and one rarely afforded to anyone, including firefighters in other countries. It is our goal to maintain that public trust afforded every day in each one of us, and that the trust will never be extinguished. So at this time, if the family members would like to come up and poke them in, pin their badges. So we did it as a group, that way nobody feels like they're being spotted.
Thank you, guys. All right, we have a presentation from Project Compass.
Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Dr. Renee Dag. This is Dr. Knittel. We work with Merit, so we're a nonprofit that's owned and governed by all the public schools in Michigan. We're located just west of Ann Arbor, so her and I drove up from somewhere around Jackson today to come talk to you. We do a lot of work primarily with connecting our schools, our municipalities, nonprofits, libraries, small community mental health organizations. And Megan and I primarily work on keeping all of our residents and our nonprofits and municipalities secure. So We've seen in recent years a very large uptick, particularly in our Michigan rural communities, of people getting cyber scammed. So on average, you're gonna see 1 in 5 residents in communities like this will get taken for multiple thousands of dollars. So if we look at how many people are in this room over a lifetime, that's a lot of us. We also see a lot of challenges right now with our aging population being able to, as more and more of us get online or get cell phone service, we're seeing a lot of people having some challenges connecting to telehealth and telemedicine. And we know that when we do that, on average, not only is your quality of life better, your life expectancy also increases if you participate in telemedicine and if you connect with loved ones online. And the last thing that we're primarily concerned with is as more and more AI applications start to infiltrate everything that we're doing, there are a lot of AI literacy challenges, especially with our children, knowing what's real and what's not real, and how to keep themselves safe as well from not only bullies, but also predators. So we actually received close to $1 million from the USDA to come into communities like this and help support them through the development of programs, training, community events, helping to build awareness, helping to build a task force and things like that. So before we started to engage with any residents or even see if this was something that there was an appetite for in the community, certainly we don't want to do any work here without the blessing of the township trustees or anybody that would be in charge here. If this group were to decide at some point that participating in the program that we're doing, it's about a 1-year program, what we would recommend is we would come into the community and try to recruit a small group of residents to just participate in a task force with us. So it'd be about an hour a month for 6 to 9 months in the task force, and really what we look for is a diverse group of people, so you know, elderly, younger folks, people in various professions, people maybe who are retired, just to tell us about their experiences, the people that they know, the problems that they've seen, the challenges they've had. And then what that allows us to do is that allows us to not only tap into the state resources that exist for these things, but also we're working with a handful of schools and university extension centers and agricultural centers to help develop some custom programs that we would be able to leave behind. So those materials and things like that would be able to stay in the community long after we left. So it could be anything from training materials and videos and books and online websites and things that would be, you know, stay in schools or in libraries and things like that. And the last thing that I would say is that it usually does help if there is at least one person that is in some official position within the community that just stays involved for the 6 to 8 hours in total over the 6 to 9 months while we're developing the program, just so that everybody can stay abreast of the things that we're developing. We have, just to give you a little bit of background, we have been around since 1956. We've been doing this work in communities since 2017, and we are now, to date, we've done work in about 85% of the counties in Michigan, and this is the 3rd round of $1 million funding we've had to do this work. So we're experienced, we have a large team, and that's really all there is. I just wanted to give an overview. I mean, certainly, however you think we can follow up if you would like us to. I just wanted you to be aware that we're here and we would love to help if that's something that there is appetite and interest for.
What's some of the successful events that you've already had in other areas?
I would say we've had 4 or 5 different counties after participating in the program. They've identified some ongoing programs that they would like to do, and one of the things that we're able to do is we provide grant application support and grant writing support. So if there's a program or a process or a position or something like that that the task force identifies that they're interested in, as a follow-up towards the end of the program, we actually help find open funding opportunities and do some matchmaking and some grant writing support. So we've had a lot of success. And there's also, if you're interested, we can put you in contact with the Southwest Michigan Planning Region, so that's a tri-county region. Livingston County participated and was very, very successful. We've had a lot of work in Berrien County that's also been successful, Ingham County as well. So we can also put you in touch with some people who've been a part of the program.
What you
Successful at
basically,
what?
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Successful at what?
So they've developed 3 to 5 year strategies for communities to help their residents become more digitally secure, more digitally safe, secured grant dollars, had positions open up. They've been able to host
500 to 600 people per county to come in and actually participate in some of these online training programs. So I think when you say successful, it depends on the objectives that each individual community task force identifies as what their goals are.
This all sounds pretty vague. It says the end goal is to create holistic, sustainable, and scalable digital opportunities. What's the difference between a holistic, sustainable, and scalable digital opportunity? I'm not seeing. I'm hearing a lot of like marketing words, but not any like specifics.
And so when you think about, when someone typically thinks about digital skills, they're gonna think about they call it the digital inclusion triangle. So you're gonna think about if people are connected, if they have devices, and then if they know how to use that computer. And what we've gone back through.
Is that holistic?
No, that is not holistic. That's the opposite. So people are just gonna kind of think, okay, if I have a computer, I know how to use it, I can get online, I'm good to go. And when you think about holistic, you need to think, well, what are our libraries doing to help the people that come in so that way they can be self-sufficient? What are we teaching in the schools to make sure that they are, the schools are all congruent with one another as they go up? What are we doing to provide support for our veterans that need job retraining, or people who are unemployed that need to go into something like Michigan Works? Or you need to think, we're encouraging people to think much more broadly rather than just saying, I have a computer and I know how to use it.
And then what would sustainable be?
Sustainable would mean at the end of the year when we're out of money and we walk away, that's not the end of it.
Will it continue? That's why you help with grants and identifying sources. Okay.
Grants, and then also, like I said, there's so the state of Michigan just received something like $900 million to develop statewide programs. So we put people in contact with the ongoing resources that the state has for training for digital literacy programs. There's going to be a very large amount of device distribution that'll be going on as well. So those types of things we're able to at least sustain for 4 or 5 years after we leave.
What do you mean by device distribution?
Computers.
So you're going to give residents computers that don't have access currently?
No, listen, we are not, the state of Michigan, through the Digital Equity Act, it's something called the Mitten program, so the state of Michigan is doing that, so we're able to put people in contact with them.
So you create the plan first, and then you connect resources to whatever you, like, identifying the feasibility study of, like, what needs done, so you connect the resources to them?
Yes, sir. So it's either, we first look for existing resources, so we're not recreating anything that exists.
Cool.
So it's either state of Michigan or neighboring communities or things that we've already developed in the program before we've come here. And then if we can't satisfy the need based on that, then we identify other funding opportunities and support grant applications to hopefully continue the work after we're done.
Can you tell me why the Department of Agriculture is funding this?
Absolutely, that is a wonderful question. So the Department of Agriculture is doing this primarily, this is called the Broadband Technical Assistance Grant. There have been 2 rounds of funding in this grant. We've received funding both times from the USDA. And their concern is, number one, all of our small farms are going away. And they're going away because they cannot compete with big tech. So the large farms that are using smart ag, so the sensors, the RFID chips, using technology to understand where you need to plant and where you need to fertilize, using those chips to make sure you're like doing supply control. There's all sorts of different things that we inventory control. Small farms who don't have the skills or have never really learned those things, or maybe aren't secure or whatever it is, they are having a lot of trouble competing.
You said you've worked with 4 or 5 areas in Muskegon County. Have you worked with farmers in those areas?
We haven't worked in Muskegon County.
Oh, you haven't? Okay.
No.
So what areas are you talking about?
So we've worked in 85% of the counties in Michigan.
Oh, okay. Okay, and then how would you network with our farmers here?
Well, see, and that's part of the reason why we recruit a citizen task force. And the grant actually provides small financial stipends as well for people on the task force to help us, because they're going to be doing these things obviously on their own time. So part of it is understanding, are there farmers unions, are there places that they tend to go and meet? Do you have local coalitions? How, like those types of things, as well as just individual contacts. We do
direct mailings to every single, residential households. There's a lot of different ways that we do that.
And those are surveys that, like, what kind of questions would be on a survey like that we'd send to every house?
Actually, we can, if you go to merit.edu/digital skills, the survey is actually up, or I can follow up with you in a PDF. So we ask a number of things. We ask about comfort level with participating in regular things online that the people who are very digitally skilled do. So comfort and perceptions of safety and ability to do things like just general skills, online banking, identifying scams. Have you been the victim of a cyber attack or something like that? We talk about have you done various things, participated in civic participation? Have you checked out a library book? Have you, looked up fact-checked information? Have you, whatever, have you job searched? And like, when we do those types of surveys, that's really just a starting point for us to kind of get the pulse on the types of programs that might be needed.
And then, I'm sorry, someone else can ask a question really quick.
I was just, could you repeat that? It was merit.edu
/ digital skills.
digital skills.
I do have a question. It sounds like what you do is, we would hire you, correct?
No, sir, this is no cost to you.
Okay, so you just have a task force go out, collect information to see what the community may need.
Mm-hmm. And then we would do things like we would host community events, we would host training classes, we could go to, whatever would be appropriate in your community. So we've done this at senior centers, elementary schools, we've hosted pancake breakfasts at fire stations, we've had, people come in and do hands-on training, things like that. We've built.
So you would provide hands-on training?
We do all of that, yeah. You guys do nothing except for maybe give us 6 to 8 hours and a thumbs up.
Okay.
Do you help people get access to internet that might not be able to in the area they live in?
So we aren't an infrastructure provider, but one of the things that we can do is, according to, there's a thing called the Broadband Equity and Advocacy Deployment, BEAD. So that's a state of Michigan program that was actually passed nationwide as a part of the Infrastructure and Jobs Act. So if all of the providers do what they are legally supposed to be doing, that Infrastructure and Job Act that was passed should mean that no household in Michigan within the next 4 years will be without internet access. So one of the things that we can do is we have access to the government database, which you actually have to have a license to do, and we can identify the households within the township and show you which providers actually received funding from the federal government to build out the infrastructure, and then we can also give you a timeline on that. So whereas we are not internet providers for households, I can say, this is the provider that was provided money by the federal government for your community, and this is when they are legally supposed to have it. So that's a good conduit or communication channel for you to be able to communicate with residents.
It's a good double check, that's nice.
And
What,
that's high-speed internet.
Yes, ma'am.
do you have a rough percentage of those without access in our township or the county?
We absolutely could find that.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
in the state of Michigan, it's a lot. It's about 385,000 households,
And mostly in rural areas?
mostly in rural areas.
And then you'd have that information before or after the feasibility study?
We could probably have that information by this time tomorrow.
Can you email it to me?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
My email's on the website.
Okay.
Also, you said you don't provide infrastructure, but how do you have 4,000 miles of fiber optic infrastructure?
So we don't provide last mile infrastructure. Your questions are amazing and I appreciate it. I generally try to stay up here because it starts to get a little bit nerdy. So middle mile infrastructure there is basically what all of the ISPs connect to. So any AT&T, Charter, Spectrum, any of the local internet providers, they have to connect. Think of like middle mile as the highway,
Yeah.
and last mile access is like the community road that leads to the driveway. So your internet service providers, those community roads, were the highway.
And that's where you're gonna get in touch with the providers who have been given money already to provide that last mile to make sure that they have done it for all the residents in our community.
And whereas we can't do anything to them or about it, what we can do is we can give you the information for someone in an official capacity to at least say, hey guys,
Nice.
And your numbers will show where, high-speed internet is available, but will it tell us which houses have, cause some can't afford it and some have a computer but no internet and.
Yeah, what if they
You know,
didn't
it's
answer the survey?
The numbers, you know, need to be a little bit specific, like what are we being
So
told?
there's a number, that's a great question, there's a number of ways, statistically you can do that, so, we've never had a survey since 2018 that was not a statistical sampling of the residents. And you can also generally infer, if you have household that has internet, nobody answers, household that has internet, you can generally infer from those, response patterns where there's most likely going to be fiber.
And the school has data on, from parents and surveys of which have internet available, which can afford to pay for the internet, and which have a computer or no internet, they have some data on that.
Could you tell me of some programs you facilitated that help to secure digital skills with residents? What kind of programs are those?
So those are, as I mentioned, they're everything from working with the schools to help develop in-home curriculum about that. In school curriculum, we have developed materials for libraries, we've created videos, we've done a lot of hands-on events as well.
So you're teaching students how to have those digital skills?
Students, the aging population, people who, we work with Michigan Works to help people who are doing job retraining, trying to find new jobs, individuals who've never participated in online healthcare before. So it's a wide variety. We're really lucky because we both have our areas of specialty, but we're working with a handful of other colleges. So when we don't have that specialty, we go to a different curriculum developer.
What would you say to someone who says, I already know how to use the internet? Like, what kind of skills are people not seeing that that they need that are kind of overlooked? Like, especially with AI and like safety online.
Well, AI is in particular one of them. So about 80% of people who interact with an AI cannot correctly identify when they do. So you can't tell someone they don't, right? And you can't say, okay, sure you know how to use it, but 1 in 5 people get scammed for multiple thousands of dollars in the state of Michigan. It's very hard to do that. So it typically just comes from these small one-on-one interactions with people like, oh, well, show me how you know, what you do know to do. Oh, did you know you can also do this? Did you know you can also do that? So it's small, it's the one-on-one interactions that really make the difference with that type of individual.
So when you're gone, yeah.
I want to be mindful of
Yeah.
time. We still like half our agenda to get through.
Okay.
Could we maybe connect you guys to talk more
Absolutely,
later?
yes, yes. So Dr. Knittel will follow up. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you.
We appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. Really a pleasure to meet you all.
I was just gonna be like 15 more minutes.
And I hate to run, we're 3.5 hours away. I don't mean to be rude, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I'll
Yeah.
be in touch, and I would love to set up, you know, a call and talk more about this, because
Alright.
Thank you.
Sweet, thank you.
There's a lot to it.
All right, DPW presentation from Herb.
We can agenda for nap time.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So anyhow, the first thing is the spring cleanup schedule. I posted that, and then I also gave you a copy of lengthy rules that the solid waste can't take.
Where's that?
There's the band list here, and then there's a 5-page one in your email, and it was also in your last board packet.
I didn't know the front convention, the flyer that was put on the front door doesn't omit furniture.
Oh,
And I got a call.
It's not omitted, is it, huh?
We're not omitting, they're not omitting.
So they can take furniture.
Mattresses?
We're not completely going out there and going crazy about
Thank
it,
you,
but if
that's
it
your
comes, we're
furniture.
not gonna turn it away.
Okay, cool.
Good to know, 'cause I got a call.
Do we have e-waste? Do we separate e-waste, like
Oh, of
computer?
course.
We do that
Always.
besides the metal, the e-waste.
There's gonna be a steel dumpster, then 3 rubbish dumpsters, and just make sure everybody has their loose house garbage bagged or boxed. Cause when it just comes out and blows, it goes everywhere.
just so you guys know, the emergency expenditure that's next on your list came with your updated agenda, because it came after Wednesday. So
Was
you
this-
all have that.
Okay, that's the Washington sewer, or do you want me to continue with what I have in order?
Go ahead with what you have.
Okay, in the front foray, there was a electric heater that started to melt, almost started a fire, but our fire department was there and took care of everything, turned off the breaker.
How useful.
After taking it out, we could buy something newer, but we would have to reconfigure the block and everything. So I looked at an actual heater that's the same that will fit in that footprint. And that's the price in front of you, $1308.94. And that is a special order because it's an older, any place I would go, that's basically what the price would be, and it's still under $2,000.
Okay, it's older. Is it efficient or no?
Yes. A newer one will be absolutely more efficient because it won't burn the building down.
Well,
Let's keep it hot.
But yeah,
That's not
it'll
that
run a
much
lot
different.
better, a lot smoother too.
yeah, burning the building down is not efficient heat. Do we have to approve this
Did you-
emergency?
Yes.
Okay. I motion to approve that.
I mean, that's not an emergency, but
Yeah, this was, sorry, the emergency one is number 5 on his
So, we're
list.
not there yet.
No.
Like the efficiency.
Okay, roll call vote.
Corey.
Yes.
Brenda.
Yes.
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 Did you make a motion?
I thought you said
Benj.
I thought it was
Benj.
number 5. So are we doing this?
What was that motion on?
That was the motion for the fan forced wall heater replacement from Johnstone Supply.
Okay, so the motion did go. Okay,
No,
good. I thought
you were moving the emergency, right?
Yeah, you said the emergency
Yeah,
one.
so did anybody say the?
I apologize,
Yep.
but I do approve that.
Okay.
What we talked about was the wall heater.
Yes.
so we're set with that one then? Okay, not to confuse everybody, but last year, the end of June, we had a huge storm that came through, straight winds, some of that debatable, that I think some of them had a twist. So we had a lot of damage at Beals Park, we had a lot of damage at Flickama Park. Immediately when we had crews come in and get the trees all taken care of, getting the power back up, we did get all the fences repaired. We had a lot of damage at Flickama where the whole net that basically keeps the bigger kids from hitting foul balls into the little kids was completely devastated. So we did go and we did get money from insurance, and there was money to install poles, netting, and to install the netting. The baseball team has been awesome enough to get someone to come in from CC Power. I still am not aware how much that's gonna cost, but I feel confident it's gonna be way under what we have allotted. Once we get the netting, and hopefully we vote on that tonight, CNC Power will also install the net. It's extremely high up in the air, it's got a tension cable, so it's 120 foot by 30 feet high. So we need some sort of a lift, and that baseball team has got all that together for us. So all we have to do is say we're gonna purchase this net for the baseball team that was already allotted for the insurance money.
Awesome.
I got 3 bids before you with the shipping. There's one that I wrote in, so I had to call the sales rep, and he said that shipping would be $150, give or take. So that's what I wrote down there. I'm recommending the Just for Nets. That was the original bid that we got when the insurance and everything had happened, the storm had happened. And that's at $2106, $2,106.
I noticed the place in Grand Rapids had $300 shipping, and they're so close to us.
You could pick that up.
Believe me, if we would have went with that, I mean, maybe I would have tried to find a way to get there to get that, but I don't know how big it is when it's folded up is massive. That is a lot of shipping.
Why is it so much more?
Just for nets.
She made a motion to accept or go with the bid Just for Nets for 2106.
I'll second it.
Alright, we'll roll call vote.
Benj,
Yes.
Yes.
Robin,
Yes.
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 Next is spring fertilizer. I did write some paperwork, for board members that may have just, and I know there are 5 of them that just came aboard, we've been using Gronix for probably the last decade. I would get 3 bids every spring, every summer, every fall, and Gronix always came back with the best price. And all of their stuff speaks for itself and our parts. So that's why I basically go with Gronix. That's the price, he does us good, it takes care of our lawn perfectly.
Does that
fertilize
fertilize everywhere?
Pardon?
Does that fertilize all the parks?
It fertilizes all the irrigated parts of the
Irrigated,
park.
okay.
All the irrigated parts. So the whole cemetery, all the parks, the fire department, the township.
Okay, thank you.
So you're talking roughly 50, 60 acres.
Okay.
Which parks are not irrigated?
They're all irrigated.
There's.
There's certain parts of the parks that are not irrigated.
Okay.
If you ever wanted to give me a call, or we could do a tour on another day, I can show you everything you need to know.
I've been answered.
Okay.
This says fall, is this the right fall that you got for us?
That should say spring.
But it's the right amount?
Yes, ma'am. I have used the same format for this for multiple years.
Just wanna make sure it's the right amount for us.
Okay,
I
spring,
I make
Right
a
amount.
motion that we use Gronix elevator hardware for fertilizer in the amount of $1,819.76.
I second that.
Question? Is this about the same as it was last year?
it's actually about $600 higher. It does fluctuate because he puts everything together in his own area out there. So some certain things will cost more, whether it's nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. So it always fluctuates, but it's still always within a few $100.
600 is a lot. That's a
This-
50% increase.
Pardon?
That's a 50% increase.
50% increase? No, I
600
said it was a few $100 more during the fall than it was. It's more,
I thought you
it's
said
$300 more this spring than it was last fall.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I must have misunderstood you.
Compared to last year? Is that your question?
Yeah, compared to last year, but this is from the fall, so. I mean,
Well, spring, I messed up there. I should say spring, not fall. But last fall, it was a couple $100 more for all 62 bags than it is this spring.
okay.
And they've been keeping it pretty close to the same price.
Exactly,
Right.
yes. For a long time. I would have to say over 10 years.
Alright, cool, we have a motion on the floor.
I'll support.
We have, that's all done.
Who
We
did
just
it?
need a roll
Who did? I didn't hear you.
Okay. Alright, so roll call vote.
Peggy?
Yes.
Benj?
Yes.
Yes.
Robin,
Yes.
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 It's the first time I've heard somebody say they haven't heard me.
Motion carries. And then you have your
Yep,
emergency.
so I'm gonna try to get all the dates right. Last week, we had some issues. We've had issues at Washington Lift Station for a while. It's been down to 1 pump for a couple months. We've been waiting for the pumps out of Hazekamp to get pulled because we know we got all new coming in there. So we immediately made sure, we did all the homework that we needed to do with Kennedy Industries to make sure that this 15 horse was gonna do what the old 30 horse would, which is the 25-year-old pump. So everything came back good. We put the 15 horse in the wet well. So now we have 2 pumps in, and I have a spare on the shelf, which I've never had, which I didn't have it for very long. Because that night we had a power surge, and it fried the other 30 horse pump in the wet well. Luckily, we had already put the 1 pump in, and we had another spare on the shelf. It was my only spare. Both of them from Hazekamp Lift Station. We got that out. It also fried the VFD, which is a variable frequency drive that ramps up a pump and ramps it down, because when all that sewage and all the riffraff and all the other particles that make its way in there, it has to start up slow to chop it so it doesn't go too fast, too jerky, and then we damage the pump and it wears out too quick. So the VFD also took a hit. I did call Consumers Energy. I did get a claim number. They're gonna investigate to see if there was a power surge, and if there was, we may be able to get reimbursed for that. We did have to purchase the VFD right away. It was in Traverse City. It was in stock. We got it in there all in one day. 2 pumps, 1 VFD. I did keep Amanda posted all the time. So it was an emergency. Without it, we could have a catastrophe.
Are these kinds of emergencies insured?
Not all, no. Some are just mechanical, some wear and tear. This particular one, the electrical contractor said to me that he said he was 100% sure it was a power surge. It could be that 30 horse was just about to start, that power surge came through and it fried everything. That could be random, sometimes it happens with lightning. It could be when a power line gets taken down and it sends a voltage through. I mean, I didn't question him. I just immediately went and got the number for consumers and I started the whole claim number and I did turn in all the information, how much the VFD was, how much the pump was, ballpark, because it was an older pump.
And what if they decide that it's not their fault? Do we have insurance to cover something like this?
I don't.
We
think
have
if it's
insurance,
an act of
but-
God, it's not gonna cover it, and if it's a power surge, then consumers is gonna cover it.
Yeah. Make a motion to pay the bill.
Thanks.
You guys gotta have sewer.
I would second that paid bill. Yeah, Bart was said.
I'll give him Benj a run for his money.
Alright, we'll roll call vote.
Trudy,
Yes.
Peggy,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
Cory,
Yes.
Patty.
Yes.
Yes.
Happy St. Patrick's
Yes.
Day, thank you.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Alright.
Herb, have a good night.
I'll say where's his green, he does have green. Okay.
Alright, next up is planning commission makeup meetings on the 3rd Tuesdays. Benj, would you like to share a little bit about your, meetings and
Yeah,
thoughts there?
I almost wish it was after the report for the planning commission meeting, but it'll just make that report shorter, I think. So there were some times, I think it was about 3 months, where it was the last planning commission team before we came on board. So there was about 3 months, I believe, where they weren't able to meet, and so that's kind of already budgeted to pay for those meetings. And since we are behind schedule for revising our master plan and our parks and recreation plan, and grants don't necessarily, we won't get denied because our master plan is we're still working on it, even though it is past due. But our parks and rec plan is not, like, we can't get any grants for that because it just is not, it's not done, so we just can't
Just
get any
because
grants
it's
for it.
not done, or it can't be done, because usually it can be with a little work.
Well, the master plan, you just have to be working on it, the parks
Who's
and rec,
working on it? Oh,
the planning committee.
Oh,
so-
as you can.
Yeah, as we can. So currently we have allotted 30 extra minutes before our meeting time. And that is not enough time to even like get into any subject and do like much work of anything. So I took notes and stuff and input from everybody on notes for things they would like to see in our Parks and Rec plan, like updates or suggestions. So I got through like 2 pages of that and we just ran out of time and we weren't able to like revisit it after our agenda. So it's basically like 30 minutes is all we have every month to work on that Parks and Rec plan and the master plan, and we just don't have a lot of time. At this rate, it's gonna be like 10 years before we get it done because, you know, the master plan itself has like many sections. We aren't even through one
Do
section.
you have a committee, going over all the master plans, or
We are
the
the committee,
list? You are the committee.
the planning
Shouldn't
committee.
you, kinda come up with, say, well, we're gonna do these 3 today, or these 4 for next time?
We can say that, but we probably
I know
won't
it
even
takes a
get through
long
one.
time to go through, cause I've done it before, yeah.
So my solution is we already have some meeting funds that aren't gonna be used, and additionally, by the time we were to use those up, it's gonna be the new fiscal year, and in the new budget we can allocate additional funds And I would like to make a motion to do additional meetings on the third Tuesday of every month until the master plan and the Parks and Rec plan are complete. That will give us, this is twofold. It's actually going to be really good for development in our township too. First of all, we're going to be able to spend like the whole meeting time on the master plan. Which is way more than we have. Like compared to 30 minutes, we're going to get a lot more done. Additionally, it puts a fire under our tail just to like, hey, we need to have extra meetings until this is done. When that's done, we can go back to regular meetings. In addition to that, people who come in with a site plan review who want to develop something in our township and need us to look at it, that's like two more weeks early. That it's gonna jump up their schedule. They're not waiting a whole month to get a site plan review. They can actually get it in 2 weeks instead. So that's a benefit to our community too, because it helps keep the ball rolling even faster for them. And who knows, maybe if we decide we like it, we continue in it, but at least if we get the master plan done, I mean, I think it would be worth it to have extra meetings until that's finished. So, I would like to make a motion to hold additional planning committee meetings on the third Tuesday of every month until the master plan and the park and recreation plan is complete and approved by the board, because there might be revisions that has to be kicked back to. So, that's my motion.
It could be like indefinite, Benj. Right? How about you make a motion until we budget?
Are we waiting for a second?
You're waiting for a second right now?
I would, but it's definitely needed beyond the budget.
I'll second it.
Before you vote on it, can I chime in with a question?
Yes.
Did your planning commission adopt a schedule of regular meetings for the year?
Yes.
Okay, so are these going to be special meetings, and are you gonna notice them as special meetings?
I don't care whether they're special or regular meetings.
Just you wanna be mindful of your planning commission bylaws, which may provide how special meetings are called, unless you're, really, the statute contemplates just establishing kind of the regular meetings, and you can have extra meetings. I just wanna make sure they're properly noticed, even if this board, approves kind of the funding mechanism of it, let's just make sure we get the notice posted online and at Township Hall 18 hours in advance.
I feel like they should be regular meetings because they're not a specific item for a special project. And it's really regular meeting type stuff.
Yeah. So I think your planning commission then, in addition, I view this as the board kind of approving the funding for it, but if you're going to treat them as regular meetings, I think the planning commission also needs to amend its regular meeting schedule.
I agree with that. However, we did in our other meetings for the planning commission, they did say they would like to do that, but it has to be approved by
And that's
the
fine.
township board
There's
first.
no harm to the board, yeah, certainly, I agree. I just wanna make sure your bylaws are complied with at the planning commission level,
Mm-hmm.
so.
But what if the township does see it as necessary because we are way behind and it isn't getting done, can't we require it?
I think you can, the planning commission is its own public body, so you can say we think you need to have them, the planning commission is responsible for calling and holding its own meetings. If people refuse to come, well, maybe they get removed.
Then they're just absent.
Right.
So
So that's maybe a little farther down the road. My point was just I wanted to make sure your notice was proper.
And the
I'm
reason
not trying to interfere with the board's approval
Do
of
we
it
need
at
to
all.
amend that motion to state that it's just we're approving funding? Cause we can't mandate them to meet.
we can actually mandate them to meet, and I think we should, only because there is a bias on the board to do as little as possible and to kick the can down the road. And at least one has noted that they do not want to meet anymore, and once a month really isn't gonna cut it. So if we make it mandatory and they don't show up, that's sometimes someone will have something to do, and it should be just an absence. but it's really, nothing is getting done. And it's been a year, and we've had a total of, no, it's been a year and a half, and we've had a total of 0 sections approved or updated.
Alright, Benj.
I think you can express that that's what the board wants to have happen. What I say, I mean, you can't force somebody to come to something against their will, but if they're not attending meetings or refusing to move progress along, and I don't know that this is the case for anyone on the planning commission, so don't take this as me maligning them, they can be removed as well, because that may constitute misfeasance, malfeasance, or nonfeasance in office.
And I think that's necessary.
If I might have my turn, please. If you look back through the minutes, most of those meetings were 10-minute meetings. That's why it didn't move forward.
Mm-hmm.
You need to spend time there, and I think this new planning commission is doing that. Any of this stuff should come to us in the form of a motion in the minutes, not by the liaison, because the board has to, the committee, planning commission has to buy into it as well. It's not fair for one member to be dictating to the planning commission.
This is a vote for everyone, and I did request that motion in the minutes to the supervisor. So there's nothing really more I could do as far as that goes. I did that already.
Has it been on your agenda for the planning commission?
I added it to this agenda. Oh, for the planning committee, I brought it up during member comments.
Is it gonna be on the agenda then?
They
For the next
they
meeting, or?
they referred to us because they can't do anything without our approval.
Well, they can make a recommendation to us.
Okay, so it's right here in board comments from the PC meeting minutes. Mr. Spencer said he would like to know if the PC can have additional meetings since the PC has missed some due to lack of quorum, which were already budgeted for in this fiscal year. Mr. Ream indicated that request would have to be approved by the township board. Mr. Creighton asked Mr. Ream to put the issue on the agenda for the next PC meeting. So I am just unclear whether the motion that was made and seconded can be voted on, or if it needs to be amended, because we can't mandate meetings.
I believe that was because they were trying to see what we would do.
Well, and what Joan said is correct. Sometimes they needed more direction, and sometimes, several times, there was no quorum, because people couldn't make the meeting. Sometimes they
And-
weren't sure it was a meeting, so some came and some didn't.
And now we're behind.
So,
And we're not getting ahead very quickly at all.
well,
It
years
is
ago-
a snail's pace. We got 2 pages.
And then we'll be doubling our budget the expenditure right now.
It's
What you wanna
not.
do?
It's not even that
Couple
much.
meetings.
Have you seen how much they get paid? It's not.
What was your motion, the wording?
My motion was to hold additional meetings for the planning commission to hold additional meetings on the third Tuesday of every month until the master plan and the Parks and Recreation plan was complete and approved by the township board.
So if the motion is just to hold, you mean to authorize them to hold? I think that's what's missing in the motion, is it authorized? Because I share the concern about mandating, because the planning commission is empowered to set its own meeting schedule as long as it meets the statutory requirements and the requirements of its bylaws. I don't have your bylaws, statutory is 4 meetings a year. Authorize and
So
urge, authorize and strongly recommend, those might be a way to do it.
I would like to amend it to authorize and strongly recommend.
Can we take a comment from a PC member in the audience?
That's, I mean, you don't have a public comment period right now, so. It was an agenda item, so public comment was already held on agenda items. It's up to the,
So we have public comment later.
Okay,
I do second that.
so you second the amended so that we are approving, authorizing
And
them to be
strongly
paid
recommend.
and strongly recommending. Go ahead, Dave.
Thank you. I understand this is not public comment, but I'm on the PC. I need to correct the record. First of all, the PC, the new PC, has met 3 times, and we've had a quorum every single time, and we've made progress on both the site plan review and we started a Park and Recs plan. So to say that we're behind is incorrect, first of all. Secondly, to even suggest that someone on the PC is avoiding or trying to defer decisions or work on the master plan or the rec plan is incorrect. That's not right. At the last PC meeting, we had a discussion about additional meetings based on Mr. Spencer's comments, And it was decided by the PC that we would look at that issue at the PC, which is reflected in the minutes. The PC members, at least most of us, understand that we set the schedule. It's not a budget, it's not solely a budget issue. We set the schedule, we've adopted the schedule, and we said we would look at additional meetings if we thought it was necessary. So I want to make sure that that gets corrected for the record. We're not behind. We're working on the issues that come before us, including the master plan and the Parks and Rec plan, and no one on the PC, and I've attended all 3 meetings that the PC has had, no one on the PC is avoiding work or trying to slow things down. And I take personal exception to that comment.
Okay, I just wanted to hear your comment as the secretary, so.
I need to make a correction on that. So yes, we are behind. That is not a matter of opinion. We are over a year and a half behind for approval to the master plan. Yes, we are. And the master plan has been tabled twice. Out of those 3 meetings, we have only worked on it 1 time, and it's been for 25 minutes, and we've gotten a total of 2 pages done.
All right.
So
That is not progress.
We are not behind.
Can we
The board may be behind, but this particular PC is not behind. We've met 3 times and we've made progress each and every time. The fact that the
we have a
board
motion
or the
that we
previous
need to vote on.
board didn't push the issue
We're gonna
is
do a
not
roll
an
call
issue
vote.
with the current PC. And I take exception to that. We are not behind.
We have to vote. We have a motion.
I have one more comment. The Parks and Rec plan is needed, I've been trying to push for that all along, for a DNR grant. But the time to turn that in was months ago, so we've already missed that. So we don't, it's not due again until, we have one at the DNR, but it's expired. So I can't remember, it was January, February 1st that we needed to have it in order to apply for a grant.
So all
We
this
have
does,
until next year for that.
all this does is authorize them if they want to adopt, they can, it's their choice.
And we strongly recommend.
We strongly
And they don't need to
Who would ask them to?
recommend that to the board then, at that point, once they make
The
a decision?
the motion on the table is to authorize and strongly recommend additional meetings on the 3rd Tuesday of each month until the master plan
And the Parks and Recreation plan are approved by the board.
that is the motion on the floor.
And then they can choose from there, we're not telling them.
Are they,
For instance, if there's a holiday or something, obviously, we have a little wiggle room, so I think that's nice and
and the
correct.
rest
They
of the
still
members
have to
are
schedule,
willing?
I mean, they would be the ones who schedule it. The township board does not
Yes.
make the planning commission schedule.
Absolutely.
Or meetings, we don't make them more?
Right, statutorily and by bylaws, they have to meet those, but beyond that,
So I'm just wondering what the rest of them feel, I mean, do they have time, you know, they
They'll
commit
decide
to
when-
one meeting a month?
We'll have to decide that at our next meeting.
Okay, so they'll have some input there.
Yeah. This isn't forcing them, this is just.
authorizing and strongly recommending.
Yep.
Although I would love to force it.
Okay,
That's a lawyer side.
now we'll roll call vote. Okay, Corey.
Yes.
Rhonda,
Yes.
no.
Yes.
No,
No,
Yes.
Motion carries. Citizen planner classes, this was passed out at the last meeting and emailed to the PC and the ZBA by Cassidy. Bambi, Benj, and Peggy requested to attend, so we need. Oh, I'm sorry, I did. Back up. We had, letter E, we have a PC recommended revision, Article 3, Section 14. Do you wanna talk about that, Benj, as the liaison?
Yes. So, a while back, because we felt as a board that there was not enough clarification for some citations of people having a semi-truck in the back of their home.
semi-trailer.
A semi-trailer, which is seen as, by the state, as a vehicle. And we are allowed to have 1 unlicensed vehicle, in the back of the residence. So, because we didn't see a clear prohibition to that, we dropped the citations. So that gives us the opportunity to clarify for the residents, before we give them a citation about something, we wanna make sure it's really clear that they've actually violated it. So people can look at the law and not just like wonder, does this apply or doesn't it apply? So that just is to bring more clarity. And as the planning committee or commission, we voted to adjust that that article, Article 3, Section 14, and in here it's bolded, and I'll just read the bolded part out loud. So this is where it prohibits, or I'll just read it and I'll let you know when the bolded part is inserted. So currently licensed family or occupant owned motor vehicles, travel trailers, campers, boats, snowmobiles, and similar vehicles, if the same are in running condition, may be stored on the owner's premises in any area or district provided said storage is compatible with the uses permitted in the said district. And this is the inserted text. No semi-trailers may be stored on any waterfront lot abutting Wolf Lake. End of insert. No more than one unlicensed vehicle and no more than 2 race cars may be stored at any dwelling in District R1 through R5 unless stored in an enclosed accessory building. The outdoor storage of an unlicensed vehicle or race cars in Districts R1 through R5 shall be limited to rear yard areas only. In any other district, the occupant operating any motor vehicles in pursuit of permitted purposes shall provide parking areas sufficiently large to accommodate all motor vehicle units, including any race cars. Such vehicles shall be parked in this area when not in use. Again, the inserted text is no semi-trailers may be stored on any waterfront lot abutting Wolf Lake. That is a recommendation from the planning committee.
Sorry, planning commission had a public hearing on these already?
Yes.
Is the intent tonight for the township board to approve an amendment to the zoning ordinance to adopt these?
Yes.
So these need to be in ordinance format. The board actually has to adopt an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance, and then notice of that has to be published.
Oh, good.
Do we need to vote to remove the current ordinance before we
Nope, you can
amend
just
it?
amend it, but it has to be in an ordinance. So I can either write one really quick and you can print it for tonight, or you can put it on your next agenda, and I can do either one.
Could you write one right now and we'll print it?
On it, but you're going to come back to this in a few minutes.
Okay.
I'm not that fast.
Can I just move on and come back?
Yep.
Okay. All right, citizen planner classes. Bambi, Benj, and Peggy asked to go, so I believe that's $250 per person, so $750. We just need to have a motion and approve that they can, Peggy.
So moved.
Second.
And roll call vote.
Trudy.
Yes.
Peggy.
Yes.
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 Yes. All right, and then the next item is point and pay building department module. Trudy, you have the floor.
Our software in the office that we use for assessing, cash receiving, tax, utility billing, building department has a module also. It's called BSNA. Point and Pay partners with them. They're actually in the same building. Point and Pay is a third-party processor that allows our residents to log in, select their parcel, and pay taxes or pay a utility bill. We would like to, in the office, I've talked quite extensively with Cassidy about this, add the building permits module. We have building permits in BSNA, but we need to add the module of Point and Pay so that the payments that a contractor could make happen in real time. They're posted in real time. The data is fully integrated into BSNA. Purpose of this is convenience mostly for the contractors. It saves them a trip. It's record keeping, so it can keep a history of their payments to the township and what permits they paid. When there are re-inspections, contractors often ask if they can pay online to save them a trip in to make the payment. I asked Cassidy, like, how many contractors would this impact, and she said, a lot. Like, how many? She said, well, a lot. She couldn't even say if it's 100 or 200. Not everyone, I'm sure, would like to participate in this, but some have been asking. They would go to Point and Pay, and they could use the permit numbers, but we're probably going to use if this is approved, because sometimes they have to have another inspection or something failed, and they could look it up by the permit, and it will automatically post the invoice from building department so that they could access it through Point and Pay. But we also, in the next section in our packet is information from the building department. And if you look at inspections completed linked to enforcement, in the page called grand totals. The grand totals, there's 757 building department inspections. On this other page, inspections completed, it says 1330. That's because that includes code enforcement and meetings and things. But if you add the 310 inspections from Jeff Johnson, who is electrical, 390 from Jim Hoppus, who is mechanical and plumbing, and the 757 from Jeff Ream, our building, not including code enforcements, it is 1,457 inspections. And you can see that's $217,339. So that's some money that we won't handle in the office. And receipt books, believe it or not, receipt books and deposit books are becoming quite expensive. So we wouldn't be issuing them a receipt. They could print it online when they make their payment. So we wouldn't have to give them a receipt or make those deposits. So it's mostly a convenience for the contractor. So the cost is $250. It's a one-time setup fee that Point and Pay would charge us to make that connection between BSNA and Point and Pay option online.
Trudy, is there a fee for them, for the contractor when they go on to do a payment?
Yes, it's 3% of the transaction, same for tax when people pay online and utility billing, sewer. Or it's a $3 flat fee if you use a checking account.
And they'll just add that on top of whatever the permit is?
Up to 10 grand, and then after that, it's more
Okay.
fee. And yes, when they choose the invoice and choose to pay it, they can pay out of their bank account, debit card, credit card. If they choose their bank account, it's only $3.
Okay.
And it tells them how much it will be before they give the total, how much the fee is.
You said this is a one-time fee of the $250?
Yep. And then there's no other cost to us, like Amanda said, the users pay the fees, the township does not, we don't get any part of that fee, it's for the third-party processor. And this would be the same.
You do notice a lot of people want to do this.
Yeah, that's what Cassidy said, that's why I was talking with her, and she's the one who'll have to use it. She'll have to print a report each day and, well, she does cash receipting on one day a week, we do too, in our side of things. So she'd have to print a report and make a deposit just like she does now, except there will be a report with it from Point and Pay.
This will make it easier for people that don't have to come into the office, they can do it at night after their job. A lot of small businesses do bookkeeping at night.
Especially contractors out of town,
Yeah.
or not in Egelston Township even, having to come from across town, or.
Will we have a link to this on the website?
To pay?
We do on our township website, yes. Right now it says pay online, and when you hover over it, it'll say pay tax, pay utility. So it would say.
So they're already able to do this?
No,
We don't have it set up for them to do it. We have to set it up.
So what is it now?
Just right now, what do we have now?
Yeah.
That people have on tax and sewer bills.
Okay.
You found that was successful doing it that way?
With tax and sewer bills? Oh, yes.
So what's the motion? Is there a motion?
We need to make one.
And then if you pass it, assuming the supervisor would sign their signature down there. Last time, the board gave me permission to sign it, but that apparently wasn't right, so we had to do it again, so I'm assuming.
I make a motion that we accept what Trudy is saying for the one-time fee of $250.
The second thing,
Can we be a little more,
Yes.
Yes.
adding,
That's-
adding building department to point and pay
To point
for a
and pay.
fee of.
Okay, we can add that on, yes.
Peggy, could I trade you forms so that I can sign it right now and give it to Trudy just after the vote?
And you want me to, fax it or
Yeah.
email it to him?
Alright,
To vote.
ready for a roll call?
Benj,
Yes.
Corey,
yes.
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 Right, motion carries. All right, letter H. Our next meeting is scheduled for April 7th, which is spring break. I will not be here. I looked in the red book. I don't know if any of you guys are traveling for spring break, but I'm going to Georgia for a cheer competition, so.
Nice.
I did look in the red book and it says that we may choose to cancel a meeting or reschedule it at a meeting. So
What month is that again?
April 7th.
We don't have another meeting this month. We've never had to.
Right.
And then the following one is April 21st. So we could choose to hold a meeting on April 13th, or we could choose to cancel it or add one, let's see,
March 31st,
at the back of April.
it was March 31st.
We could do April 28th. March 31st is MTA. I'm going to the MTA conference. I will not be here.
We also have the option of having someone else chair. I'm not suggesting that, I know you wanna be here, but if we ever got to that point where we couldn't do anything else, that's another option.
Yeah, someone else could chair and prepare the packets and
You said April
We
7th.
can reschedule.
April 7th is spring break and I will be out of town.
Are you only gone that week? Or 2 weeks?
Well, I'm going to MTA, which is March 31st. That's for township people to go get training. And so I will be around. We could have a meeting on
14th.
March 24th. We could have a meeting April 14th.
It doesn't have
Or
to be a
April
Monday
28th.
if we reschedule it, does it?
I think April 14th is good, for me it is, anyway.
I like that.
So we have-
Reschedule the April 14th.
We're gonna have 14th and 21st.
All right. Then do we make a motion?
I make a motion to
Move our
move our next appointment, or next meeting to April 14th.
I second that.
We're not spending money, so can we just leave it in, right?
Voice vote is fine.
What's the 7th?
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Motion carries. Communications Sewer Committee.
Yeah, I was thinking
Yes, thank you.
that is not.
So apparently there's confusion if that letter was sent to
That's
5490, that, the information we brought to the board, recommended to the board, was showing that the house is within 200 feet, that's what our ordinance says. So, the sewer committee is recommending that the supervisor send a letter. So, and then Laura's been involved too with composing that letter, which
Yep.
the sewer committee would agree that's a good thing to have.
And I did provide a draft to the supervisor before I got your email today, Trudy, with the additional address, so
Yeah,
I think Amanda was on that as well.
Yes.
so that change would be made. It'll be the correct.
I didn't know if it had gone out yet, so I didn't make
Oh.
a change.
So I found out more information. I had someone go out there and talk to him because we had talked about at the last meeting that we would have a conversation before we just sent a legal letter because that's really abrasive. And since 1990 was the last time anyone spoke to him about connecting. And from what I remember from the conversation, I don't have the notes in front of me, it was an astronomical amount. And I believe he said no way, but it was dropped. No one's ever brought it up or anything. So I think the sewer committee was supposed to meet again. When's your next scheduled meeting?
April 19th,
April
Wednesday, mid-April.
So, I talked to someone on the sewer committee.
Yeah, I can't remember if we had April or not because of spring break.
Okay.
It might be me. I don't know.
And I believe that there was going to be maybe some conversation about, approaching it a bit more delicately and slowly, starting maybe with the house and then talking about the campground later. So,
Yeah, we're not sure about the campground, what there is to hook up. They have, according to the health department, they have a dump station for their campers and it hasn't been inspected. Last year it hadn't been, I'm not sure about this year. So there's a lot more involved into it. There's also 2 wings that come off the house that, as far as we know, are being used as apartments, which according to our rate schedule, other dwellings are charged 1 unit
How do
each
we know
also.
that?
I thought the fire department had been in there before.
I don't know.
I thought it was Chief Cleveland told me that. That's why I said as far as we know.
I haven't been.
And they are attached to the home.
Yeah.
They're not like separate buildings. Yeah, we have to,
Let me
but the
start-
home is within 200 feet.
Right, but let me start by saying, I looked back at the old schedule, and when that went in down there, campgrounds were not on that schedule. That's probably why they never pushed the issue, and I think we need to know if, how to proceed
Yeah.
accordingly, because we adopted, in 2010, we adopted a new rate schedule that then, included campgrounds.
But the house, just previous boards didn't follow our ordinance. Our ordinance says if it's with 200 feet, and that's why we brought all those pictures and showed Dan and Herb and measuring, and the lateral is within 200 feet, so. A house, unless
Yeah.
you advise us differently,
No, and I didn't draft it for the house, but I can revise that, or if you still wanna take the more personal approach before the letter, that's fine too. Whenever you want that letter, I can get it to you.
How would that work with the sewer committee making a recommendation that the supervisor send a letter? And then going and talking to them, and then finding out more history? How should that work? Do I need to talk to the sewer committee and ask them for a new recommendation, or?
Did the sewer committee make a recommendation?
we aren't today, but that was the intent of that letter was to, in the past, other businesses that we had to change, or, I don't know if there were any businesses that didn't hook up that we wanted to, but that we thought should because of the ordinance. We sent a letter and just told them what their new rate would be according to the rate
Yeah,
schedule and our
I remember
ordinance.
that from a couple
But
years
this one,
ago.
we chose not to do that. I think our board voted to send a letter first and ask what happened in the past and why you didn't hook up and try to ease into it that way. So that's what I thought that was the
And
letter
this
was
is
supposed to
very
be.
discretionary, right? I mean, if you come to a point where we're going to have to be more forceful, that option's always there. But if the question is, should we talk to them or send a letter, it's really up to you, and there's certainly no harm in reaching out to people, but you're not required to if you'd rather just send a letter.
Who did you send? Someone already went and talked to them? Talked to Russ?
Yeah, and I'm just briefly trying to check the minutes and see, but was that in February? I had it highlighted, we had talked about when we discussed it, and we had the letter in the packet, we had discussed someone from the building department reaching out to them. And so someone did, they didn't wanna come speak tonight, so I'm speaking, sharing my conversation.
Someone from our township?
So someone from the
Okay.
township that's on the sewer committee went out and talked to him, and, I mean, it's so, since 1990, no one has followed up.
We've had lots of businesses that have been rated wrong for years and years.
That'd be me.
Actually,
I'm
the
the guy that went and talked to him. You've already said
actually, the sewer system, did it go in? And then, oh, yeah, yeah, I did.
I went and
No,
talked to him.
but there was no letter in the packet. It sort of looked like the letter, and I apologize for that confusion, and it did say the campground, which it shouldn't have. It should have said the house address. But it said, in your packet, here's a picture of urban land measuring, here's the GIS. It didn't even have a complete address, it didn't have a date. It said sincerely sewer committee.
Oh, I've seen that.
Which
Okay, know what you're talking about.
that's not how I would prepare a letter to a resident, and that clearly said, in your packet, here's the information, so we
But
didn't
we
intend
actually-
to send a
But
letter.
I've drafted a letter since then, it just hasn't gone
Yeah.
out yet.
And you.
We didn't
did
have
you-
a motion to send a letter, though. We have the minutes, and the motion was not to send a letter, the motion was to reach out to them. And so that was done.
And find out if he could add information
Yeah.
on why he wasn't hooked up. I remember
We do,
that.
we have
Okay.
those in the minutes,
Yeah.
it's in the minutes.
And we had other situations, you sent a letter to them and emailed back and forth or phone calls with a different help. That's why we would recommend that you or the attorney do it. The sewer committee has no authority, we're,
Advisory
Advisory,
sort of body.
yeah.
No, but you're seeking information, that's why it would make sense for the sewer committee to invite Mr. Haight to come in and find out his side of why he hasn't hooked up. Maybe promises were made that we don't know, well, I don't know.
I think every one of these are a unique situation, and every one of them has to be approached differently. We can't just take a broad brush and approach everyone the same way, because there's so much history behind this, and so much, I don't wanna say cloak and dagger, but things we just don't understand. We wanna take our time, and the letter that she had talked about being, maybe not the letter that just comes out and says this, but maybe something a lot more inviting to come talk to us. So, not only someone that came there in the sewer department, then something else that says, hey, we wanna sit down, we wanna talk, we wanna understand more about this project and what happened in the past.
And is that what you did? You already went and talked to him?
I went and already talked to him. I felt it needed to be done.
Are you going to update the sewer committee or the township?
And the next
or-
sewer committee meeting, I will do that.
And then would it be appropriate for us to make a recommendation or?
I don't think it's appropriate to take a recommendation right now.
No,
until we
no,
have
no,
another
not now,
meeting.
after our meeting and whether we
Yes.
recommend and,
Yes.
invite him for a meeting. or
If it was
whatever,
nothing
or whatever we
backhanded, I
decide
just
to
felt
do.
it had to be done. He's been a resident a long time, and I wanted to find out, I mean, he's seen me in his yard like a half a dozen times, marking this and doing all this, so I wanted to let him know why we're there and what's going on, and
Right.
there it is.
And tell us what he said.
Yeah, I
at
could,
the
I
meeting
could
and
say,
what
yeah,
he-
someone on the sewer committee, that'd be me or Jeff, it's me.
I could have been Cassidy or Amanda.
Okay, well,
Cassidy.
I don't want anyone to get buffaloed.
I was trying to be discreet, sorry. But yes, it was,
So are we-
addressed as,
Consensus or vote or something not to send any letter?
Well, we don't know what the result of the meeting was, so it's
Right,
kinda hard
so
to
until
advise
our
on
next
that. We have to
board
wait.
meeting, when we have a meeting, then we can.
yeah, so the last minutes, which I thought I emailed you guys all these minutes, but, they are available. Our consensus as a board, the motion or consensus, whatever it was that we would reach out, and we reached out, and we now have an answer from him that since 1990. As a supervisor who's signing that letter, I do not like sending a letter saying you must hook up your campground and your home by 30 days or else. I am not comfortable with that.
Would you be able to pay that over time?
I don't know,
Yeah,
that's why I'm
yes,
not comfortable
yeah,
sending
they
that.
can do it
Authorize
as,
that. Yeah.
installments. But if our ordinance says you're within 200 feet, and if the home is within
The
200
home,
feet.
yes,
Yes, home is good.
Herb and I both talked
Yeah,
about
we had
this.
some misunderstanding of this campground or.
Yep, so the home, Herb was going to go to the sewer committee and say, let's hook up the home and delay on the campground
Yeah,
for now, right?
yeah. The campground,
I think there's more information that needs to be gathered on the
Yeah.
campground, because the rooming house, or whatever you call it, for lack of a better word, is downhill, so that would probably require some kind of trash pump or something to get it up.
well, it's
I
attached
guess
to the house.
If it's
The-
even, if it's
Part of
even
the house
possible.
building.
There's a lot of moving parts to
Yes,
this.
Yeah.
yes.
It's not just a slam dunk. I mean,
I.
we're talking about either this could be the end of something in Egelston, or it could be something where it's been going this way. We wanna try to get our hands around it and get something out of this. It's gotta be approached carefully. I mean,
Yes.
everyone's different, like I said.
And I FOIA'd all the information the health department had, where tanks are and what's hooked up, and if they have the dump station and all that, if they sent it to me free, but I did get as much information to share with the sewer committee. Or down the road, kind of, what about the campground, what about those long rooms that supposedly are apartments that.
I can be on standby for whatever.
Yeah.
One other thing, real quick note for the new board. There's a force main that goes through his whole property, and the whole dewatering system for Wolf Lake goes through his property. I'm just putting it out there.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Could he revoke that?
Pardon?
Could you revoke our rights to that?
I don't know that.
Is it in the deed?
I have no idea,
I
I'd have
just
to look at what's
don't-
recorded.
Don't start going off in a million directions. I'm just saying that we already have a lot that goes through there, and he's kind about it, and I just wanted to let people know.
I'm sure it's good.
There's a huge history and it's a lot, it's a big thing in our community.
Yes, I agree. Thank you for,
Is it, is there some kind of like, hey Laura, is there some kind of like statutory thing, because it's been like 25 years? or
You can
whatever.
require, but there's no what we would call grandfathering like there is for zoning. You can require that someone who is within 200 feet of an available sewer connect. Because the goal of the public health code and just policy statewide is to eventually eliminate reliance on septic and have everyone connected to public sanitary sewer. So if it should have been connected 30 years, and I don't know if this, I don't know all the facts, but as a general statement, if it is required to be connected, even if it's not been connected and hasn't been enforced, estoppel like that doesn't apply against a township. We can still enforce the law and enforce our ordinances even if they weren't enforced before.
And it's a state law and it's our ordinance.
Yeah, but the state law authorizes us and our ordinance does require it.
Okay, even if the dump station is 1,000 feet out,
200,
Well, that's-
200
that's the
feet is the available
campground.
sewer. That's what is a case by
that's-
case you need to look at.
our issue is not the home, our issue
There's-
is the campground area.
The home and then the campground is
Yeah.
just unknown, the unknown.
Yeah,
So, if the issue isn't the house, then we should send them a letter that he has to hook
I
up?
I think he wants to hook the house up, I just,
I think we should talk more about it in the next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if we do force the hookup, then it's how many REUs? That's where the stickiness
then we'll
would
I think we
cross
should
that
talk about it
That
in
would
the
be
next
sticky.
meeting.
Okay,
thank you for.
thank you.
I do have some experience with your REU schedules.
Yes, I
We're
do
good.
that. We let them know what I meant by REUs.
I have your.
Are you ready?
Sorry, I sent it to your email. I don't know
Okay.
if that's the right place, just whenever you're ready, it's done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
okay, so the report is, it's on hold? The
There's a,
sewer-
what?
The sewer committee report, I got,
We had a recommendation to send that letter, a nice letter that says, just open the door and let's converse, but Herb already went there, so I don't know. You don't have to follow our recommendation, right?
Just hold off until further.
Yeah, they don't have to vote on our recommendation?
No.
Oh, so,
I don't think there's any action for the
on
board.
hold.
I don't think there's
just
anything
wanted
for the
to know
board to do right
what
now.
to put on there.
There is a report from the building department that is 11 pages long.
Is the record?
What?
for the record.
Oh.
Am I supposed to read it?
No,
I don't know.
no, it's not. We're gonna be here a while.
I see the enforcements, that's pretty cool. I do have questions on some of the fees. I know
And what? Which one you're talking about?
when it talks about permit category totals. So there's building fees on here. I'm just wondering, like, how is our building fee structured? Because I see electrical, plumbing, and sewer. I see those have flat rates, but like when someone's doing a new construction or deck or like a garage.
There's a table, and it's based on the value of the project, and that escalates, the cost of the permit escalates.
Is it like a percentage of the total value of the project?
I can't tell you how it's set up, I don't know that, but I just know that.
It's set up by
it
the state
varies.
of Michigan, we all follow the same
Okay.
Yeah.
rate schedule.
And that
So-
includes their,
So it's
the
like
number
across
of-
the board for everyone?
the number of inspections and the permit for building.
Okay, cool, thank you.
So it's right.
Can you go find that?
I've already read it, but like if everyone has enough time.
Yeah, it's mostly for information, I think.
Okay.
For the record, that was- Didn't it for the record, John?
Yeah, the building report is always for the record, yeah.
So I'd like a motion, or I'd like to motion to approve that report.
You don't have to.
Oh, we don't.
It's just information.
Okay.
For records.
Thank you.
Last item there under communications, we had that presentation from Sun Chemical, and I provided you guys all a letter if you wanted to print and sign it. I did send one to our representatives and Senator Bumstead, so.
Thank you.
Where did you send it to, our email? Yes. If you haven't done it and you want to, you can still send it to me, I'll send it on for you. I can print it and send it, or print it, have you sign it, and then send it, but I did send it from myself. We need I'm having that printed, my laptop is in the other room, so, it'll be a second, but we need a motion to pay the bills.
Hold on, did we do the planning commission report?
You have minutes
I have minutes,
in the
yeah.
beginning.
So just wanted to kind of just add a little comment to that if I can. Oh, is there no report, like,
No.
ability?
Communications from the.
I mean, it's the communications section. Like, I would like to actually talk about something with
Okay, go
the
ahead.
planning committee. Okay. So, we
Where
had,
am I gonna put this?
I guess letter D for communications from the PC.
We need to amend it.
Can you, I don't know.
Let's just do it during board.
Yeah, you need to.
Board comments?
work on it.
Yeah,
oh wait,
thank you. All right, can I have a motion to pay the bills?
So moved.
second.
Roll call vote?
Rhonda?
Yes.
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 All right, I'm just waiting for the printout.
Can we do board comments all the way, or no? I already moved that.
With public comment, but
Can we go to public comment and go back to an agenda item, is that okay? All right, public comments.
Sandra Schwab, I would strongly request that you allow the individuals in this room during a meeting to make appropriate comments while you are discussing topics. Dave Koval, a member of the Planning Commission, wanted to tell you something. You almost told him you couldn't do it. That's wrong. You need all of the facts before you make decisions, and sometimes we have some of those facts that you don't know about. So I think you need to seriously consider it. Yes, you can cut us off if we're just talking about nonsense and just gabbing on forever and ever, because these meetings are lasting way too long.
My comment is on this new ordinance with the semi-trailers. And basically, it's kind of prejudicial as far as I'm concerned, because of what makes the people along the lake any better than people who live on Woodcrest, Russ Avenue, or the new subdivision that was just built off of Chatterson and stuff, to where somebody could move a trailer in there, but not along the lake, because you live along the lake. Okay? I don't think they should be allowed, period. They're an eyesore. If my neighbor moved one in next to me, we would definitely be having words. I'll tell you that right now. They're an eyesore, they're ugly, and they're not a shed. And to have it to where you can't have them in a specific area, but you can have them throughout the rest of the township, it's not right. It's absolutely not right. So I would say, get rid of them. Whoever has them already, grandfather them, don't allow any more in. That's my suggestion. Now, to answer a question that you had, as far as the fire chief goes, the fire chief is commonly gets the same benefits as the bargaining unit. That's why the fire chiefs are never involved in negotiations. Because they basically benefit from the bargaining unit when they negotiate the contract. Okay. As far as giving Alex additional money, contract doesn't allow for that. However, anything over his hours, if he confers with supervisor or anything, or prepares something to present to the township board, he's to be compensated 2 hours of time and a half minimum. And that's according to the bargaining unit contract and the Fair Labor Standards Act. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, do you mind if I answer that question that you had about the ordinance? Because that's a really good question.
Do you wanna just send the board?
Yeah, I'll do that in my board comments.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Poor guy, you're just gonna be so busy.
How am I gonna remember all this stuff?
I don't know more, but we need to at every meeting.
So, Joan, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Okay, you have served on our township board the longest, and so you have been involved in our policy and procedure manual, correct? I mean, we changed things, or started to change on the Driver board.
Yeah,
Yes, and we didn't get very
because
far.
that board agreed that they were archaic and
Right, but as it stands, what is on record is our policy and procedure manual, correct? Because you require Herb, for instance, to get 3 bids on things because it's in this
We
policy
try.
procedure. Well, yeah, but I mean, we do, because it's in this policy procedure.
we don't do, we try, it's
Well, yes, but he does his very, but we do use this as a guideline.
as a guideline,
Thank
you're
you.
right.
Yes, and that. So, my concern, and because you have been on the board the longest, is in the section where it says, all new employees shall be considered orientation employees for a period of at least 6 months following their initial date of employment. They will have a written evaluation at the end of 6 months. An orientation employee may be discharged pursuant to section 3.9A without recourse to the appeal process provided in section 3.9B. All non-orientation employees will be evaluated by their department heads at 1-year intervals within 1 month of the employee's anniversary date. Department heads shall be evaluated by a representative from the township board. My question is, if this is in our policy and procedure thing, how can we enter into a 5-year contract that runs past your, I mean, if you don't get reelected, it runs past your term. So, for instance, the fire chief, then that puts, if there's a new board that comes in, then that puts them to where they have to follow what you did. And so, considering this says all new employees, it doesn't specify department or anything. Don't you think that under the circumstances that this is something that should be considered, that there should be an orientation or probation period before an entire contract is signed for the next 5 years? Thank you.
Any other board comment? I mean, public comment?
Wrong night.
Just regarding the trailer situation, I believe that if they pay their taxes and I pay my taxes, I should feel free to do what I would like to do on my property, as long as it's not hurting anybody. And it all just seems to be a look thing more than anything else. Some people don't have thousands of dollars to put out for a pole barn for extra storage and raising a family.
Any other public comment?
Is that after me? According to the trailers, I agree totally with Dan Lay. I live in a subdivision, residential zoning, and heaven forbid, if one of those trailers came into our subdivision, I'm telling you what, you would have that whole subdivision in this boardroom. It's an eyesore, it's not appropriate, it's inadequate, and there's other avenues that can be taken. And if they don't like it, they can move out. I'm tired of my taxes going up every year immensely because our subdivision is a nice subdivision. The houses are selling for a crazy amount of money. I mean, if I could get out of my house what my house is valued at, I'd leave tomorrow. I'm serious. I cannot believe how high they have my house assessed. I just got hit again this year for thousands of dollars. And I'm not gonna live next door to a semi-trailer that's gonna be parked in their yard. I don't care if it's in the backyard, side yard, front yard, or what. And you're right, you're showing favoritism to the people who live on the lake. That's not correct. My taxes are higher than those people on the lake, if you would like to know. You can look it up. And it's not right. So I don't know what your answer is, but I just disagree. It should not be pick and choose because your buddy is one of them, because he talked to him this before the meeting here to forewarn him that this was going to be brought up. Because it's your buddy, your friend, or whoever it is, it's not fair to the rest of the township. It's the way I feel.
Tell me you didn't talk to her.
David Goble. See if I can explain the change, proposed change in the ordinance. The reason that the lake is being accepted out is because the current ordinance says that the semi-trailers, because the board has identified them as a protected vehicle, the semi-trailers can be stored on a property if they're in the rear yard. By definition, under the ordinance, you've defined waterfront lot as a lot that is on the waterfront, and by definition, the side of the lot that is facing the water is the front yard. So by default, the backyard or the rear yard is the side of the yard or side of the house that's facing the road. And nobody, I don't think anybody in the audience, I don't think anybody on the board wants to have a semi-trailer parked in the front yard at their neighbor's house. So because the homes on Wolf Lake are identified differently for front and rear yards, that's why the lake was being accepted out. It has nothing to do with the value of the home or where the lots are located. The fact that they're on the lake and your ordinance defines a waterfront and that delineates the front yard as the lakeside and the rear yard by default as the roadside, that's why the proposed ordinance is in front of the board.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Any other public comment? Alright, board comments.
Keep it short, Benj.
Well, Dave helped me with that because he explained everything I was going to explain about that. Thank you, Dave. And we have some undeveloped land. It's on Brooks Road, nearest Muskegon Township, and we had a person come in. Actually, it was I won't say the name of the developer, but there's a developer coming in to develop that land, and his perception from the last planning committee was we wanted the least amount of density as possible. I noticed there's another development over there where the lots are like 200-foot frontage, and that is urban sprawl. So that section of the township is between Wolf Lake and it's on the other side, Muskegon Township. Those are two pretty dense areas, and there's just kind of like a void in the middle. And that is really our only chance to be able to hook up to different utilities like water. And I know a lot of people are having a problem with PFAS, and we have different contaminants in the groundwater. And I would just like to say, I would like to, and this is why we need the master plan to be updated quickly. And I would like some help, at least some support from the board to designate that for as much density as it takes to usher in the utilities from the nearby township. because that is the closest, most inexpensive way for us to bring in those utilities. And that way, it's gonna be the most affordable way for us to begin to hook up and to remedy some of these groundwater issues. So I would like to look at projects that have the density needed to bring in those things. And I know that some people want to like have very spacious yards, but you cannot afford to bring in all those things and split it between like 10 people as opposed to, 20 or whatever. And another thing too is from now on, we need to add as many sidewalks as possible for these new developments. We're not putting it on existing residents like a bill or whatever, but the new residents, they need to have at least some sort of sidewalk or some kind of plan to hook up so that we can finally get like sidewalks to go to the schools and go to the parks and be a part of that master plan. Right now, we're just like happy with easements. Oh, would you be willing to like do that in the future? It's kind of something we need to do like right now with any new development. So hooking up for utilities and sidewalks and just beginning with that as we have all that undeveloped land that people are looking to develop right now.
Seems like you got your job cut out for you on the PC.
Just in the nick of time.
No, because
Okay.
David helped me.
I would like to thank Mike, and all of you that were pinned, but Mike used to come to school and was phenomenal with the kids. And someone should talk about your hometown hero, so I wanted to say that too. And I want to thank her for all that storm cleanup and coordinating and the lift station and getting CNC out there, the electrical engineers to fix that. As far as the story trail, Herb and I met today with representatives from Maddle, our library, the district library, MAISD, and a lot of talk was about logistics of how Herb was going to install it and how far apart and where it's going to be, but we're also planning a celebration, a ceremony, a ribbon cutting ceremony with lots of things to do. In the past, they've had bounce houses and scavenger hunts and all sorts of things. They recommend that we invite the fire department and our PENS officer, and Fellowship Church has a preschool and a children's ministry, and maybe we'd invite other churches and other entities within our township. And I'm just wondering if anybody would like to help plan that and coordinate that. I have lots of contacts to make and things that we talked about today, but I just wonder if anybody else would participate in that. We're tentatively scheduling, trying to hit June 10th. We have to talk to the soccer club and make sure it's available out there and send out invites. The ISD, Maddle will make a flyer that will go out to thousands of kids in schools, even not only just in Oak Ridge. They'll coordinate with preschool and kindergarten roundup. It's just a lot of stuff that we want to have a big event out there in that field once the story trail is installed there. So I just wanted to let you know that's happening. And
Will you be doing a site plan for the event, so we know, the board knows what's gonna be going on and if there's exposures?
do you want like a map of it
Just
or
like we
a
did for
flyer
the festival,
okay, yep.
approved by the fire department and Jeff. That's what we did for the festival. So they had exit routes planned and
Where do you want me to submit that?
Jeff.
All of it to Jeff? Do you want me to call the liability insurance for that? I did that last time for like the
They require a copy of the site plan.
Do you want
and
me to
then
submit that, or do you?
I'm
I'm happy to do it,
I'm
but
not
do you
doing that.
want me to give it to you, or you want me to just?